Sababu ng'ombe yake hachafanya nini? Hachatoa maziwa ya kutosha, ako mgonjwa. That means he cannot, the cow cannot produce milk, and therefore there is a need to attend to that cow. So basically, what I am saying is milk is as important as water and oxygen. It's a necessity nowadays. It's a necessity nowadays. So today I will want us to look at what we call approaches to improving milk density and also milk quality. Remember, as we try to increase milk production, we should also be taking care of the quality of the milk that is being produced by the cow. Because when you take your milk to a cooperative or a society, of course, they normally taste for the quality of milk that you've brought. Sindio? That's why wanaona kama umeongeza maji. Because, and if also it has maybe the antibiotic residues and all sorts. Because what we are saying is, in as much as the cow is producing milk, that's not enough. We want a cow to produce what we call quality milk, so that as we increase on quantity, we also increase on quality. I think that is also what we normally encourage our farmers, especially in the cooperative level. Whenever we are training our farmers, we normally train them on milk hygiene and all aspects that leads to quality milk. So I think this is something that is of great importance, and we need to really take into consideration when we are talking about milk production. So, first of all, we are our topic will center most on the quality of milk in terms of maybe nutrition. How does nutrition, animal nutrition, helps in improving the quality of milk? We know that we have several or other factors that contribute to the quality of milk. One is genetics. That one we cannot overrule. We know that the quality of milk that is produced by Holsteins is not the same as of the milk that is produced by Jersey or Ashers. That one we cannot overrule, and that is genetics. That is innate. So we know that Jerseys and Ashers tend to produce more quality milk than the Holstein. But on the other hand, the Holstein, in terms of quantity, will be better than Jersey and Asher in terms of volume. Sinivo. And that is why unapata wakulima wengi, they prefer Frisians to Ashers or Jerseys, because they want to be in business. Unajua ukienda kuuza maziwa hapa kwa parapara ama uende kwa cooperative, wanapima in terms of liters. Sini kweli? So kama mtu umeproduce 10 liters, kama umeproduce 5 liters, sana sana waangalie mambo na quality hapo. Quality ni huko mbele, wakati wanafanyia mambo na value addition. Sindio? But mkulima hapa anaangalia in terms of what? For volume. So what we are saying basically is when we talk of the quality of milk that our animals produce, they differ based on their genetic makeup. That is one. Number two, we also have health coming. We also have health playing another role in terms of quality of milk. When an animal is sick, as yesterday we talked we had a topic on mastitis, and you all know that when a cow is having mastitis, of course the milk that same cow is producing is not as quality, because it will have some flakes of pus and also some trace of blood. So that will also tend to alter the quality of milk. Another factor now will be centered much on nutrition, and that is basically what we are going to talk about today. And of course, the importance of milk, we've said. When a calf is born, like the first 1 week, we normally encourage our farmers to give colostrum. Si tunaambianga hivyo, the first 1 week, ndama lazima akunywe colostrum, because basically what we are saying is this colostrum is called all-in-one. We normally call it all-in-one because whatever the cow is getting from the forage, from the fodders, from water, will be secreted through colostrum and into the body of the calf. Be it vitamin, be it whatever, proteins, fat, whatever, the calf will be able to get all those nutrients via colostrum, which is the first milk after calving. So that is the importance of milk, and also to us human being. Most of us, kuna wale wakiingia tu kwa kitanda ashaangukia usingizi, si ndio? But kuna some of us wale tunakarakara kwanza for 1 to 2 hours. You are tossing and rolling. Yani kitanda si mbaya, but kuna wale some of us lazima mpaka wakule ile dawa inaitwa nini ya kulala? Is it aspirin? Piriton, si ndio? So kuna watu lazima waweke hiyo moja ndio walale. To avoid the tossing and rolling in the bed. So one thing that I will confirm to you is that even milk iko na hiyo piriton. Inaitwa tryptophan. So when you take a lot of milk, it adds something. It adds something for you, for your sleep, called tryptophan. So it's of great importance to us. So before you sleep, you can take a class or 2 na utaangukia usingizi. Na uombe tu usikuwe na ile ndoto mbaya ya kuanguka kwa shimo yenye ifiki chini. Sikuna kuanga na hivyo. So that, basically that's what we are saying. We are saying milk is of great importance in terms of for human being and also for calves. Okay. Now, yesterday when we were talking of hooves, remember the first thing that we were taught to know was the structure, the anatomy of the hoof. Before now, you comprehend or understand the lameness, how the lameness comes in, how you should prevent it. So the first thing that you should know was anatomy. Now, in our topic today, when we want to know about the quality of milk, you cannot know the quality of milk when you don't know the composition of what? Milk. So this is what we call milk anatomy. This is what we call milk anatomy. Sindio? So, that milk that you consume, it has a lot of elements. Number 1, basically, is water. Maji tu. Maji tu. Masiwa iko na maji mingi sana. 85 to 87% actually. So average 87% of milk is water. Tumeelewana? So as you can see, we only remain with 13% of other elements. So 87% is water, 3.6% is fat, mafuta. Kwa maziwa 3.6% ni mafuta. But now, this one now, the fat content vary from animal to animal based on genetics or breed. For Holstein, they have an average. I think this milk composition here is, I think it's based on Frisians, because you'll realize that Frisians normally have an average of 3.5 to 3.8. 3.5 to 3.8 of butterfat content. That is Holsteins. Frisians wako na 3.5 to 3.8. But for Ashers and Jerseys, they can have a butterfat content of 4.5 to 4.9. I think in terms of classification, Jersey ndio iko na masiwa nzito sana. Jersey ndio iko na masiwa nzito sana. So for Holstein, we normally have 3.6. For Ashers, we have around 4.0 to 4.2. For Jerseys, it can even go up to 4.9. And then we have proteins. This milk also contains proteins. This one vary from also animal to animal based on their genetic makeups. But we have average of 3.2, but it can go up to 3.6. It can go up to 3.6. We also have carbohydrates, sukari. Wanaitanga sukari. Sikuna masiwa ukikunywa unasikia iko na to sukari. And even those people having maybe therapeutic issues, they are encouraged to take a lot of milk, especially ya kondo. Do you know why? Because kondo iko na butterfat content yake iko juu. At the same time, the lactose level, sukari, iko juu. So we also have carbohydrates in the milk. That is around 4.7%. And then, in trace amount, we also have vitamins and minerals. That's around an average of around 1%. So we have vitamins and minerals. So basically, what we are saying is, before you even get to understand the quality of milk, masiwa lazima ikuwe na hii. Ikikosa hii moja, that's not quality. Ingine ikikuja chini ya that percentage, that's not quality. So when we are talking of milk quality, we want to make sure that the milk that our cows produce centered around the average of that composition. Okay. Improving milk quality in dairy herd. Improving quality in dairy herd. Now, as we were talking about this composition, remember, this composition, there's always a way we can improve, regardless of the genetic makeup of that animal. We can always improve. Sawa. So, we are saying diet formulation. Diet formulation for the high-producing dairy cow requires the knowledge of the nutrients that are required by the mammary gland. So, before we having that in mind, the composition of milk, then you can be able to know which kind of nutrients we should give to our cows in order to improve on milk quality. So that if your cow is having deficiency of fats, kama masiwa yake iko na shida ya mafuta, you know I have to have this nutrient in order to counter the same. If your cow is having issues on fats, if it's having issues on protein, you know what to give to your animal to improve on milk protein. So basically that is what we are saying, so that at least as we give tusipeane tu chakula kwa ng'ombe, atipora tu ashipe, si ndio? Kuna hata ng'ombe wanakuanga wamechasa sana, lakini ikifika mambo na production na quality of milk iko chini, because what we normally give our cows, mkulima tu is satisfied akiona ng'ombe ameshiba, lakini haezi kuwa na what we call, there is what we call feed ratio, si ndio? So we want to give our animals at the best or the quality nutrients so that we also get quality milk. So that we don't just give what we call filler materials. Filler materials. Ng'ombe tu amechasa. Amechasa, lakini ni filler materials. Inajaa tu kwa tumbo, lakini haina nini? Haina nutrients. So basically that's what we are saying. So understanding of their physical characteristics and their combined interactions are essential to successful dairy cattle feeding. Now, we know that before tupate hiyo maziwa, lazima imeenda kwa factory. Hiyo chakula ng'ombe anakula, lazima, imagine, nyasi, ile nyasi tu tumeshinda kukanyaka hapo chini. Lazima ikuwe converted, ikuwe maziwa. Ile dairy mill umepea ng'ombe, lazima ikuwe converted, ikuwe nini? Maziwa. Ile white energy, tulisema jana, tumepea ng'ombe, lazima ikuwe converted, ikuwe maziwa. So all that process from forage to secretion of milk, lazima it has to undergo some factory changes. Now, milk secretion is a process. Milk secretion is a process. Milk secretion is a process. And it first starts with feed intake. It starts with feed intake. Ng'ombe lazima kwanza kule chakula. That is the primary. So, we are saying, when a cow ingests, or when a cow takes on in feed, what will happen is, there will be a process of digestion, starting from the mouth, mpaka ifike kwa mammary gland for secretion. So, first start with feed intake. Remember, we are talking of a ruminant. Kazi yake tu ni kukula kwanza. Kukula kwanza. Anakula kwanza. Then inaenda rumen. Sindio? Before the process of regurgitation. The cows will take a feed. Inaenda rumen kwanza. Store. Inaenda store kwanza. Sindio? There, the cow, then after some time, when the cow is resting, then the process of digestion starts. I can say chemical digestion, because the other one, remember we are starting with mastication. Ng'ombe anakula, anashaka kwanza, anakatakata kwanza, akimeza, sindio? That is mastication, and then it goes to the rumen. From the rumen, when the cow is resting, the cow will now start chewing the cud. That means anaanza kuirutisha. So, the process of regurgitation will bring back the feeds. Inakuwa nini? Inakuwa remasticated. Like, anaikatakata sasa vizuri. Anaikatakata vizuri. Then after that, of course, then chemicals digestion of starch. Digestion of starch or carbohydrates start in the where? In the mouth. So that is what we know. With the help of salivary amylase, an enzyme called salivary amylase. So there, the starch will be converted to sugar. When it's converted to sugar, or rather the glucose, it then will be absorbed to the bloodstream, and it can be taken taken through the blood vessels to the secretory cells. That is for the starch, the sugar. For those of us who came in, we say that milk contains proteins, fats, and also carbohydrate, and then larger percentage being water. So the sugar that we were talking about, the carbohydrate level, is the one now yenye inatoka from starch directly inaenda kwa bloodstream. That is in the mouth. Then, having digested protein, at the stage, the proteins and fats will go to the stomach for digestion. Digestion of proteins and fats take place in the stomach. So the proteins will be digested, and the fats also will be digested in the stomach, and then it will be converted to very important nutrients that will go alongside the other important nutrients like sugar through the bloodstream to the secretory cells. That is the alveolar cells in the mammary gland. And then now it will be stored in the secretory cells until the time when there is milk let down. Until the process of milk let down. And that one can be triggered by many factors. As you all know, kuna ng'ombe lazima ndama yake akunyonye kwanza, ndio afanye nini? Ndio achilie maziwa, si ndio? Mwingine kwanza lazima aone the milkman. That's why they normally say if you change the milkman, even the volume of milk that will be produced will also change. Si ni kweli? Because they start biological recognition by the cow that huyu si ule ananikamua. Kuna mwingine tu akisikia ndama yake anatolewa ana release maziwa. So the process of milk let down. So having all these nutrients now in the blood system will go into the mammary gland, and it will be available. And these products, the nutrients will now be in the milk when we do the milking. So that is what we are saying. Okay, having said that, remember the process of milk let down. There's also a very important factor here called the stress factor. The stress factor. When an animal is stressed, of course, there will be less milk production. Sinukweli, because of the stress. Now, here, I don't know if you can. Okay. What we are saying is, when there is heat stress, the animal, especially, we are talking of the cow coming on heat. That's what we are saying. When the cow is on heat. When the cow is on heat, we know the signs of it. Sikuna ile physical, restlessness, mounting on others, and then there is what we call drop in milk production. Sindio? Now, what causes this drop in milk production? It is something to do with hormone. It is something to do with hormones. So when we remember, when the cow is cycling, when the cow is on heat, of course there is production of GnRH hormones. Sindio? This production of GnRH, of course, the LH and the FSH, you all know the follicogenesis. Remember, when this GnRH is produced, what will happen is it will inhibit the production of what we call, there is an hormone called prolactin and oxytocin that are responsible for milk production. So what we are saying is the production of the GnRH will antagonize the production of silent what? Silent heat. Sindio? So it means the cow could be cycling, and therefore there is high chances that the cow is producing a lot of the generate, the LH and FSH, and therefore it is inhibiting the production of prolactin and oxytocin. And also there is what we call another factor also, kenye inachangia ndio maziwa inaenda chini, is because of the thyroid stimulating hormone. We have DSH hormone, we have the 2, the T3 and T4. Thyrotoxin, and another one called triiodothyronine, which are responsible for metabolism. That means if the metabolism now is hindered, the cow haisi kula vizuri because the metabolism already imefanyiwa nini? Yes. So that is also another thing. Now, when GnRH hormone ikienda juu, it goes alongside the growth hormones. So when GnRH ikienda juu, we also have the growth hormone shooting, and we also have the ACTH, and which are responsible for production of the cortisol from the adrenal gland. So remember, the cortisol that is produced by the adrenal gland, it means this is a stress, inakuanga ya stress, sindio? So when cortisol is produced, the cow will now be in that scenario, and therefore it will inhibit the production of prolactin and oxytocin, and therefore it will affect the production of milk. So basically that is what we are saying. The hormonal changes in the body of an animal will have an effect on milk production, and it will correlate with the quality of milk. Inaendanga hand in hand. The quantity and quality of milk. It means we talked of the hormones that are responsible for metabolism. It means then that even if the cow kulikuwa na chakula ya kumpatia proteins na fat, but because of the metabolic issues with that cow, hata kula hiyo chakula, and that means kama chakula hiyo soya bean umempatia, it means there will be no protein kwa maziwa. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the quantity and the quality will go hand in hand, and therefore they correlate. And that is why when there is this stress factor in forms of the heat, we also have when the animal is not healthy, then therefore the quantity that the animal will produce and the quality will correlate. Okay, so that's just a bad way. And now, we say that milk composition, we have water, we have proteins, carbohydrates, and we have vitamins and minerals. So we want to look at this very important factor called is it H2O? Huh? Yeah, water. So water is very important. Water is very, very important. A cow that produces optimally should be able to consume around 30 to 60 liters per day ya maji at lipitam. Yani akunywe 30 to 60 liters per day. But most of our farmers will have issues with water intake by our animals, because you will find that the water, the quality of water that our animals take is so much compromised. So much compromised. Actually, you might find in a farm, kuna mtu akiwekea maji Monday ng'ombe yake, atakuja kupatilisha in the next what? Monday. That is 1 week. Akikuja kuona asubuhi, hiyo bado iko. Kesho Tuesday, hiyo bado iko. And this will affect the quality and even the quantity of milk that animal will produce. Because one thing, especially when you have more than 2 cows, or when you have more than 2 animals sharing the same water point, what will happen? Cows are very sensitive to saliva of another cow. There's what we call ptealin. There's what we call ptealin. What will happen with this thing is, when an animal, when a cow, akikuja kunusa hii maji, asikie kuna tuharufu ya saliva from another cow. Of course, akikunywa maziwa si lazima saliva ikuwe ndani. Akisikia tu kuna hiyo, ataikunywa kidogo ama inuse na ende kando. So when we have animals sharing the same water point, the water that we give to our animals should be changed every day. Ukipata kuna maji ya jana ilipaki, mwaga hiyo, safisha nayo the stall, so that you get fresh water for the animals to consume. Ng'ombe wengi kwa kikula kwa trough moja, akisikia hiyo the substance that I've told you, atainusa na aende. So we are talking of the quality of milk. Wengine, we have the water troughs that we have in our zero grazing units, but we don't clean them daily. So unapata kuna mold, kuna fungi, crops, and all those, and this will affect our animals, especially the quality of milk that the animal produce. So water is second, as we are told. Water is second only to oxygen as the most important element of life. That means we cannot do without it. Water is very paramount for us to survive. For our survival, water is very paramount because we are told that it comes second after the oxygen. So hiyo inamaanisha hata kama kuna oxygen na hakuna maji, tunaweza safiri haera pia, si ndio? Because one thing is, the reason we survive is because of the building units of our body. It starts from the cells, and cells cannot do without what? Water, si ndio? So basically what we are saying is water is very important. And then milk is 87% water, as we've said. Milk is 87% water. 87%. That means the 13% will cater for proteins, vitamins, and all other elements. But 87%, which is a clean air. It's a clean air. Yeah? So that means, yeah? So water makes up to 56 to and 82% of total body weight in dairy cow, and between 68 to 72 in pre-ruminant calf. I think that is that's a general knowledge that our bodies is made up of, and even the animal bodies is made up of 56 to 80% water. Okay, water is essential for transport of substances. Yes. Apart from being a component of milk, water is very important in transportation of substances in our bodies. So having metabolic processes in our bodies, water is very important, because when we have all these things in our bodies, they have to be transported from point A to point B. And water plays a very important role. Number two also is that when there is a lot of heat, we were talking about the heat stress and all that, our body should be maintained. Our body should be maintained, should be regulated of high heat. So there is what we call body temperature regulation, and you know that water plays a very important role. And then insulation and removal of waste. Removal of waste. Unajua ng'ombe asipokunywa maji, ni ngumu sana kutoa samadi. Very, very hard. And sometimes, because we know that when a cow is having anaplus, kuna kuanga na tendency ya kukua na hard feces, si ndio? So you might treat a cow thinking that you are treating anaplasmosis, na kumbe shida ni maji tu. Because now, if the cow is not consuming water, it means that even the cow will produce a dry feces. and adjusting such feces is very hard. So you might have issues with the removal of waste if you don't have water. So water is very essential in our body, in the body of an animal. So water is essential for rumen, microbial development. We say that our bodies do have what we call normal microflora, bacteria, the normal bacteria that helps in digestion. So an animal has billions of bacteria that helps in digestion. Sawa. So water plays a very important role when there is that in the rumen microbial development, and we are saying an animal cannot do without this bacteria, and therefore for this bacteria to function or to do their work optimally, there should be sufficient water in the rumen. So we have sources of water. We cannot say ng'ombe tu lazima kunywe na maji ndio apate maji. We have sources of water. Number one, of course, is free water. So when we say free water, this is in maji, the free available water that an animal can drink at any given time. This one is available in the feeding troughs or water pans, and therefore they are called free water. And then now we have what we call metabolic water. Metabolic water. This means this is in maji yenye tapatikana ng'ombe akikula chakula, especially the succulent feeds. That is why tunasemanga when you give animal the succulent feeds, maybe kuna shamba bado iko na hii makuku mpichipichi, unapata ng'ombe ataanza kuhara, si ndio? Because atakuwa na maji mingi kwa mwili. That is what we call metabolic water. That is what we call metabolic water. And of course, we have now water from endogenous reaction. That means hiyo ni maji yenye itapatikana wakati kukiwa na processes of maybe kama after digestion and also. Major source of water for cattle is free water. That is what we are saying. Free water is available at any given time, and we are still coming to that. Therefore, anything that limits water intake will hamper animal performance. Anything that will hinder the animal from taking free water will, of course, translate to poor production. So we have to encourage our animals to take water. How do we encourage our animals to take water? One is by providing quality water. Quality. Number two, maji isikuwe baridi sana. Maji isikuwe baridi sana. That's why we normally encourage wale watu wa zero grazing. Wakiweka roofing, mahali kuna water point, they do what we call waweke ile transparent iron sheet, so that at least the UV light from the sun will be able to warm the water. That is what we are saying. So if you give a cow very cold water, atakunywa kidogo. So we are trying, you warm a bit. That is now, we also have a clean water, as we have said. Now, as will be expected, free water intake increases as milk production increases. The more the animal consume water, the more milk that cow will produce. Because we say it is related. It is directly proportional. The more the water intake, the more the milk produce. Because milk is 87% water. And then water intake also increases when the cow is in an environment where temperature, humidity index is above 6.8. Basically what we are saying is animals in a hot environment will tend to consume more water. Sawa. So when animals are in an environment where there is a lot of it, of course, animal will tend to drink a lot of water, not for production, for thermoregulation. But now the cow is consuming for thermoregulation, but then that will also translate to production. It will lead to more production. But the cow is intending for thermoregulation, but itasaidia tena itaenda sasa wapi mambo na production. So contaminated water with bacteria, minerals, and toxin will affect production in dairy animal. Water with algae growth, water with fungi growth will affect water consumption. Ile maji iko na ile nini ya green hapo, what you call the algae, that one is a poor quality. And of course, when an animal consumes water with such things, with fungi and mycotoxin, remember yesterday we talked of mycotoxins, how it affects the micro what? We have the bacteria in the stomach. So when you have mycotoxins being ingested by an animal, it will then have an effect on the population of the bacteria. And therefore, the animal will have issues with the nutrients because the bacteria has been killed. There is a little digestion in the body, and therefore there will be little nutrients that will be absorbed into the body. And therefore, we will have little or milk that has no nutrients. Water can also provide minerals, which can either disrupt the performance of lactating cows while enhancing the health of prepared cows. Yes, especially wale ng'ombe wanakunywa maji kwa what you call these water pumps, the large water pumps kama ile ya Wamasai. Hiyo maji iko na a lot of minerals because inakuja na mchanga. Si ndivyo? Na mchanga tunajua iko na a lot of minerals. Unaona wanasema prepared. Mbona wamama wakiwa wajawazito wanakula mchanga? Because of iron, ndio? So it's also the same thing for cows. Hiyo mchanga mnakulanga, mimi naona pia ng'ombe wanaweza kuwa wanapewa. Ikipakisha wiki 2 wanakula because they also need that. So they are saying wale ng'ombe wanakunywa maji sana in the water pumps, they love that thing. So basically what we are saying is that when you have a lot of minerals in water, it will also tend to affect the pH of water. Sino kweli? Because we know that some elements are acidic. And therefore, it will affect the pH of the water that will be consumed by the cow. And when the pH of the water is altered, it also means the rumen microflora will be affected because we know they cannot survive in an acidic media. And when the rumen population, the microflora population in the stomach is affected, of course it will translate to poor digestion and absorption of feeds. And then we'll have poor milk production. So these things in a correlate, just like that. So, having said that, we can say, in conclusion, water is very important. And therefore, animals should be given clean, warm water, free of algae and fungi, so that at least we get quality milk, because milk is made up of 87% water. So let us encourage our farmers to be changing water every day. Maji yenye ng'ombe walipakisha wasiseme bado ni mingi. They have to change to get fresh water, because we want to encourage. In as much as we want to give quality milk, we want to encourage our cows to consume more water day by day, so that at least we have an increase in milk production. Now, our next component that we are talking about is proteins and amino acids. I think when we say proteins and amino acids, this is one family. Ni mama na watoto. Si ni mama na watoto. Si amino acids are the building units of protein. Si ni kweli? So we cannot talk of proteins and leave amino acid. We cannot talk of amino acid and proteins. The in familia. So basically what we are saying is, remember, when we talk of proteins, we are talking of crude proteins. See, that is the measure of proteins in the feeds. Sindio? So this is actually the measure of the percentage of nitrogen in the feeds. So basically we are saying protein is typically measured in Vista as crude protein, which is defined as the percentage nitrogen feed multiplied by 6.25. So don't mind about 6.25. That's then the constant. That's always a constant. And therefore we are saying proteins are always available in feeds in terms of crude proteins, and they vary from feeds to feeds. Sinibo? Yeah. Now, however, crude proteins contain not only true proteins, but other nitrogen containing compounds such as amino acids, dipeptides, nucleic acids, and even ammonia, and other non-protein nitrogen compound. It also needs to be realized that cattle, as with all animals, do not have proteins requirement. They have an amino acid requirement. So what we are saying is, the animal should be given feeds that contains amino acids, because when you have amino acids, they are the building units of what? Proteins. Sawa sawa. So the true proteins are defined as chains of amino acid. Cattle can use amino acid for production of enzymes. So we know we have several enzymes that are very important in our bodies, and production of such enzyme need proteins. We were talking of salivary amylase that helps in digestion of starch, and therefore for production of salivary amylase we need these amino acids. We also have milk proteins. We have immunoglobulins that are very essential in what we call immunity of the animals, and also various organs and tissues in the body. Excess amino acid can be used in some instance for gluconeogenesis and lipogenesis. Gluconeogenesis is what? The production of what? Yes, as the name suggests, gluconeogenesis is the production of glucose from non-carbohydrates to produce energy. That is what we call gluconeogenesis. And then we have lipogenesis. That is fat synthesis. Sawa sawa. Lipogenesis is fat synthesis. So the production of milk proteins is needed for the production of bioactive proteins present in the milk portion, and have several protective functions for the neonate, for the calves. So milk proteins are very, very essential for the neonates and calves. That is why we are saying, and calves should be given colostrum for the first 1 week. And what makes colostrum yellow? By the way, nini inafanya colostrum ikuwe yellow? Eh? Normal milk is white in color, sindio? But colostrum, especially day 1, is yellow. Alafu hiyo yellow ina fade pole pole. What makes a colostrum yellow? Fat. I don't think it's fat. Okay, what makes colostrum yellow is the protein level. Actually, it is the protein level. Protein level. So we are saying these proteins are very essential for the neonates. So the protein level for colostrum inakuanga very, very high. Alafu inapungua. So the protein level for colostrum is very high because they have a very important role in what? In calves. Sawa sawa. Now, the building units of proteins, we said amino acid. Now, amino acids, we have hundreds of amino acids. But not all of them are very important. We will narrow down to very important amino acids that must be in the diet so that at least an animal will produce what we call quality milk. So we will narrow down to what we call as to some very special elements of amino acids that make milk quality. Remember, we have what we call essential amino acid and what we call non-essential amino acid. When we say non-essential amino acid, those are types of amino acids. So when we say non-essentials mean they are available in the body and therefore not necessarily be present in the diet. But when we say now essential amino acid, essential amino acids are amino acids that are not in the body and therefore must be obtained from the diet. Are you getting what I'm saying? And because we are talking about nutrients, that means we are not going to talk about non-essential. We are not going to talk about non-essential because they are already present in the body. So we are going to talk about the essential amino acid that must be provided in the diet. Essential amino acids that are of great or paramount for this case is what we call lysine and methionine. The two, lysine and methionine. They are very important in animal. And because they are not available in the body, we must provide. We must provide lysine and methionine. Now, there are hundreds of amino acids in nature, that one I have said. An amino acid contains both amino and acid group. That is why we call amino acid. And then, in most animals, there are 10 essential amino acids, with the remainder considered non-essential. Sawa sawa. So when we say non-essential, iko kwa mwili. Tukisema essential means it is important to provide. Now, there are some amino acids that are considered limiting for production. These limiting amino acids are based on the diet for the cattle. That is what I have just talked about. The limiting is the same as essential. Commonly, corn and soybean meal are the primary source of energy and protein in the dairy cattle diets. Corn, ile mahindi tunatengeneza nayo silage. They are very good source of protein. That is why we harvest at the milking what stage, so that we take care of the proteins. Ukiacha ikue nasema nini? Ukiacha ikue ikisha komaa inakuwa imefanya nini? Isha proteins itakuwa imeisha. So we harvest at the milking stage, the corn. And we also have soybean. Soybean are a very good source of protein. But remember, I talked of lysine and methionine. I can tell you that there is no way you can give an animal corn and you leave soybean. And there is no way you can give soybean to an animal because tumesema yote iko na protein. Ukimpea ng'ombe yenye iko na corn peke yake, corn iko na methionine lakini haina lysine. Are you seeing that? But then soybean iko na lysine lakini haina nini? Are you seeing how they are correlated? That is why we are talking of there is what we call TMR, ile ratio. So that means corn, lazima ukipea corn ng'ombe, lazima umpe soybean, so that you get the two proteins available for the cow. So corn is usually fed in two ways, as silage and also as grain. As silage and as grain. As silage, hiyo mnajua, si ndio? And then as grains also, hiyo mnajua. This one can be, you crush them and you can make a wheat bran, maize germ or maize bran, si ndio? And then you give to the cow, but don't give excessive amount because it will lead to laminitis. So corn is known to be deficient of essential amino acid lysine. That's what I was saying. Ukipea ng'ombe tu silage, ukifikiria sasa umepea proteins, utakuwa umepatia protein but lacking what we call lysine, which is very important. On the other hand, soya bean, which is a co-product, are typically the primary protein supplement, supplemented with corn feedstuff. Soya bean feedstuff are deficient in amino acid methionine. So you see how they are correlated now. Ingine iko na hii, ingine na hii. So leta hii ni lete hii. Tukue nayo yote. That is basically what we are saying. So therefore, these amino acids, the lysine and methionine, are considered to be co-limiting in the animal diet. Co-limiting. Because ingine na hii, ingine na hii. Ingine iko na hii, ingine na hii. So because they are co-limited, they have to be given, the two should be given simultaneously so that the animal will be able to obtain the lysine and the methionine. Therefore, we are saying this means that the protein synthesis and yield are limited by amount of these amino acids in cow's diet. Typically, a source of protein that will be undercreated in the rumen, such as blood or fish meal, and in this particular amino acid will be included in the diet to help compensate for the deficiency. So because now you have the deficiency of lysine in the corn and you have a deficiency of methionine in the soya bean, therefore you have to give them, you have to integrate both of them so that you cater for the deficiency. Diet feds to cows that are high in grass silage and pasture with what? There's something there. Silage and pasture with barley and oats will be with barley and oats will be adequate in lysine and methionine. I don't know whether we are getting this. Now we have kuna hii Napier grass imeingia juzi. Naitwa nini ile imewekwa sijui, it's a combination of a sorghum and ordinary bok choy, ndio? Yeah, the super Napier. The super Napier we are saying inakuanga na a lot of crude protein. So tunasema around 18 to 20% of crude protein, or 16.8. Or 16 to 18. That is crude protein, ndio? So what basically this bullet is saying that such grass, the grass silage, the pastures, the Napier grass, the barley and oats are adequate in lysine and methionine. But now they have a deficiency of what we call histidine, which is also very important. So histidine also is another essential amino acid. It's another essential amino acid. Together with what I told you in the morning, wale walikuwa wameingia, nilisema kuna wala wana usingizi usiku. Kazi yao ni kukarakara nini mpaka unaingia tena online, usingizi inapotea, ndio? And I said there is a very special piriton kwa maziwa. Inaitwa nini? Tryptophan. So that tryptophan is also an amino acid which falls under the same class with lysine, methionine, and histidine. That is essential amino acid. They are of the same class. Now, crude protein. We said proteins are available to the animal in terms of crude protein. So crude protein is typically divided into two proteins. The RDP and RUP. Now, when we say RUP, this is what we call rumen undegradable. Rumen undegradable protein. And then we have what we call rumen degradable protein. What's the difference? When we say rumen undegradable protein, jana tuliongelea white energy, but ilikuwa story na energy. Tukisema it will bypass the rumen. It will bypass the rumen so that it will not undergo fermentation. So itaruka rumen inaenda direct where? Small intestine for absorption. The same case with RUP. It means rumen undegradable. It means it will bypass rumen because I could digest it qua rumen. So we call it rumen undegradable protein, RUP. So the RUP will small intestine absorption. Lakini ni protein, si kama ile achana ilikuwa energy. Are you getting? For this one now is protein. So in white energy are protein sasa pia. But this is not a product, eh? I'm just using the same because the other one ilikuwa inaruka. So hii pia inaruka. So rumen undegradable protein inaruka. And then we have now the rumen degradable protein. That means this one is a must. Ipitie wapi? Rumen. So that it will be what? Degraded or digested. Now, do you think both of them are important? Of course, yes. But now, the disadvantage of this one, the rumen degradable protein, for energy yesterday, tulisema, when you have carbohydrates, ikienda kwa stomach, there was that fermentation, there is production of lactic acid, na inaenda laminitis. So naelewa. For this one also, ikienda stomach, it means that there will be digestion, and when there is digestion of this protein, there will be production of what we call methane gas. Not methane gas, ammonia gas. Sorry. There will be production of ammonia, which is a byproduct of amino acid breakdown in the stomach. So when ammonia is produced, ammonia ikiproduciwa kwa tumbo, ni nini itafanyika? This ammonia, excessive amount of ammonia will be taken to the liver for detoxification. And therefore, when they are detoxified in the liver, there will be production of what we call urea. So ammonia gas is a what do you call, what can you say? A product that is used to make another one is called what? Yes, precursors. So the ammonia gas now, from the stomach to the liver for detoxification, because it is in excess, it will be detoxified to produce urea. Urea now will go to the bloodstream. And when it goes to the bloodstream, what will happen? Ikiwa kwa bloodstream, sitaenda kwa mammary gland. Yeah? Finally, itaenda kwa wapi? Mammary glands. And when they are in the mammary gland, that is the alveolar cells. What will happen? Ikikamuliwa, itakuwa kwa masiwa. That is basically what we are saying. So that's a disadvantage of this one, because there will be a byproduct called urea. And that urea will automatically itaenda masiwa, which will then alter the quality of milk. Okay. We are saying the RUP fraction will bypass the rumen and it passed the small intestine for digestion, similarly to the similarly to that of non-ruminant. Hiyo nishaongelea. The RDB fraction has several fates. It is typically degraded to amino acid, dipeptides, and ammonia by the microbes present in the rumen. So you see, of course, the reason I was saying both are important is because, as you can see, this RDP, apart from producing ammonia, it produces amino acid first. And this amino acid is very important. It also produces dipeptides, which is also important. But then, ikifika hapo sasa kwa ammonia, ndio kuna kisungumkuti kidogo, sindio? Now, excess ammonia, I think this one I've explained. Excess ammonia in its unionized form can be absorbed across the rumen wall and transported to the liver. Sio nishasema. Itaenda kwa liver via the hepatic portal what? Vein. You know the blood supply to the liver is through the hepatic what? Vein. For detoxification to what? Urea. And the fate of urea, bloodstream, mammary gland, maziwa. Na urea kwa maziwa itafanya nini? It will alter the quality of milk. Remember, we are talking about the quality of milk. Now, urea will enter the blood and can be present in the blood, milk, and even other bodily secretions. Urea can also be recycled. Okay, so this urea also can be of importance. So as you can see, urea can also be recycled through the saliva and back into the rumen for potentially reusing by the microbiota. Now, fermented carbohydrates can be utilized by bacteria along ammonia to make what we call bacterial protein. Cellulolytic bacteria need ammonia to optimize their ability to digest fiber. So we are just talking of the importance of urea also. Urea can end up in the milk, but also it can be recycled back to the stomach. And when it is recycled back to the stomach, it then will be of great importance to the microbes in the stomach. And we know the importance of having these microbes in the stomach. And therefore, that is the importance of urea. However, protozoa cannot use ammonia as a source of nitrogen and therefore must acquire their amino acids through absorption of free amino acids or through the engulfment of bacteria. Metabolized proteins. Basically, these are the two we have talked about, the RUP and RDP, metabolized protein. So when you talk of metabolized proteins, these are proteins. These represent the amino acids which are absorbed by the cow in the small intestine. So it means when we have proteins in the feed, the one that will be absorbed by the animal is what we call now metabolized. That means they can be metabolized and put into use by the animal. That means these metabolizable proteins are very important nutrients in the quality of milk. So tukiongelea crude protein ya tukisema maziwa iko na proteins of 3.2 to 3.8. That means it has metabolizable what? Protein. It is comprised of the RUP, we say that, rumen undecorated feed protein, microbial crude protein, bacteria and protozoal protein along the endogenous proteins. When we say endogenous proteins, it means proteins that are available in the body, not from the diet. And when you say it, sometimes when the cells of the intestines, remember, in every living thing, there's what we call tear and wear. Si ndio hivyo? Inakuwa mkubwa, ina tear off. So the cells that tear off is called what is called slaved cells. So when we have the slaved cells, these slaved cells can be very good source of what we call endogenous proteins. So ile cells inang'oka kwa mwili. Ile cells inang'oka kwa mwili because of the maybe old age, old something. Ile inang'oka can be converted to protein. That is what we call now endogenous proteins. That will fall under non-essential because already mwili for growth and lactation. So lactating cows should be fed. An array of protein sources instead of one. That is what this one I have just explained. Nilisema you cannot give one protein source to an animal. You have to give an array. That means a variety of, because we are saying when you provide a corn, it gives lysine or it gives methionine. When you provide soybean, it gives lysine but not methionine. So what you have to do is you provide both of them. Sorry. For example, that one I've just explained. It is suggested that percentage RDP, the rumen, the creatable protein should be 10%, but then RUP should be 5% to 6%. Mbona RUP iko chini? This is because all of them will be absorbed. But for this one, there will be byproducts. That means the whole 10% will not be available for the animal. So what you produce, you give a lot because small amount will be used. Now, carbohydrates. So much about proteins. So we've said proteins are very essential in milk production. So take away points from proteins. Number one, proteins are very important nutrients for quality milk. Number two, you don't give an animal one source of protein. You have to give variety to cater for the essential amino acids. Sawa sawa. Now, carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates, yesterday we talked about how carbohydrates hinders the issue of nutrition. And we said, remember, tumesema 87% ya maziwa ni maji. Si ni ukweli? The 13% inatoka nutrients. Now, when you are giving your animal nutrients, when you are doing now the ratio, the TMR, I wish kungekuwa na kitu ningechora. Now, when you are giving your animal TMR, ukipea chakula, tuseme you have 100 kilos. You have 100 kilos of dairy meal. Nataka tu niwaambie tu jinsi ya kutengeneza dairy meal kienyeji. Dairy meal kienyeji. Au watu wanatutengenezea feeds. You know there are proportions for carbohydrates, for proteins, for minerals, and also what? And all those. So when you are now, when you have 100 kilos, when you have 100 kilos of dairy meal you want to make, 70% inafaa ikuwe nini carbohydrate. Tumeelewana? So the remaining 30%, si tumesema ni 100 kilos, wacha nisitumie percent because tunatengeneza sasa kienyeji. So umeleta soya bean, canola, whatever, then you have now the wheat bran or the maize what? The maize chaff. So tunataka kutengeneza 100 what? 100 kg ile kunia. So 70 kgs should come from carbohydrate. So unaweza changanya wheat bran, uchanganye maize chaff, hiyo ni carbohydrate. Hiyo inafaa ikuwe 70 kilos. The remaining 30 kilos, 18% to 20%. No, kumbe naenda percent tena. 20 kilos, 18 kilos to 20 kilos. Inafaa ikuwe ni protein. Sawa sawa. Na tumesema haufai kutumia protein moja. So usiseme sasa si nimeweka hapa mahindi, wacha nilete sasa soya bean 20 kilos. Hapana, huwezi leta soya bean peke yake. Unaleta kuna canola, kuna cotton seed cake, kuna kwanga na nini ingine? Kuna sunflower. Yeah, you all know, sindio? So unaleta 18 to 20 kilos of that. Alafu unakuja kufanya nini? Unachanganya. Hiyo imekuwa kilo ngapi? 90. Ngapi ndio imepaki? 10, sindio? So the 10 kilos remaining ndio unakuja na ile chumvi yako sasa. Kama ni Maclick super, kama ni Trigger Lake masiwa, kama ni gani ile ya masiwa, sindio? Of course you know the elements that they should have, the calcium, phosphorus and all that. Unaleta sasa around 5 kilos, 5 to 6 kilos ya hiyo. Unakuja kuwekelea nini? Unakuja kuwekelea. And then now there will be remaining part ya around 3 to 5 kilos. Hiyo inakuanga tu filler materials. Unajua kuna vitu inafaa tu ikuwe kwa tumbo. Kazi ya hiyo ni fermentation tu. To take care of the bacteria. To take care of bacteria. And you love your balanced ratio. Hiyo ni kienyeji. So basically what we are saying is carbohydrates are the largest component in diet of a dairy cow, comprising up of 70%. So unaona ile 70 kilos sasa, 70% of the diet lactating dairy cow, and more in that of growing heifers and non-lactating cows. What we are saying is, kwa wale ng'ombe wakamuliwi, kwa wale heifers, the dry cows, carbohydrates inafaa ikuwe juu. Inafaa ikuwe more than 70%. Because kwa wale ng'ombe wenye wako na mimba, hatutaki kupea a lot of proteins because they'll put a lot of weight. A lot of weight. Sinivo. And a cow that has a lot of weight will have issues when calving. Lazima kukuwe na dystocia. Because the cow is over? Yes. So ng'ombe akichasa sana, that is why wakati una steam ng'ombe, usimpea a lot of proteins, concentrate na wapi? Concentrate na? Yes, carbohydrates. Sawa sawa. Yes. Na chana tulisema, because now we are concentrating on carbohydrates sana, the chances of laminitis tena inakuwa very. Simunakumbuka jana tukisema laminitis iko sana kwa ng'ombe wenye nini? Karibu kusa. Because we are concentrating on this one. And that is where you come with white energy. The fermentation. Sawa sawa. So the two most common carbohydrates used in feeding dairy cattle as with other ruminants are cellulose, which are beta 1 and 4 linked glucose units, whereas starch is comprised of 1 and 4 amylase and beta 1,4 and beta 1,6 amylopectin glucose unit. That's just the building unit of carbohydrate. That is cellulose. So the cellulose is much more resistant. That one is something that we know. When you have a lot of cellulose in the body, there is that tendency of having indigestion issues. So cellulose is much more resistant to digestion than starches. Sawa sawa. Therefore, the primary difference is the type of bond between the glucose unit. Remember, cellulose, sumona how complicated the cellulose is. This beta something. That bond between the glucose units ndio inafanya inakuwa nini? Inakuwa ngumu kudigest. So inakuwa ngumu kudigest than the other one. And then we have sources of carbohydrates include, so this one we know, sources of carbohydrates. We have forages, we have ravages, we have grains, and we have sugar. Forages including hay, hay crop, grain-based, that one as we talked about corn, and also we have are promptly digested by cellulolytic bacteria because they contain cellulose, and which results in production of acetic and butyric acid. The fermentation. Yes, kuna mtu jana aliuliza hii acid inatolewa. We talked of fermentation yesterday, and because we were concentrating on laminitis, tukasema the fermentation process of carbohydrates will lead to production of lactic acid. Situlisema hivyo. Alafu mtu akasema, does it mean now that the acids that are produced during the process of fermentation yote ni mbaya? Now tuko na yenye si mbaya sasa. So we have volatile fatty acids. So when carbohydrates are being fermented in the body, there will be production of lactic acid, which is harmful, and there is production of volatile fatty acids, which are very important. Volatile fatty acids equal to number one is what we call butyric acid, which is a precursor for making glucose. So when you have butyric acids in the body, you end up getting glucose, and when you have glucose in the body, what happens? You have a lot of energy. Are you getting that? Another volatile fatty acid that is very important is what we call butyric acid. Butyric acid is responsible for milk synthesis. Sawa sawa. Another one is what we call acetic acid. Acetic acid is also important in milk synthesis. So we have three. Number one is propionic acid for energy. We have butyric acid for milk synthesis. So for us now, because we are talking of milk synthesis, we will talk of butyric acid and what? Acetic acid, which are the byproducts of fermentation. So I think having said that, I think This is basically what this slide is trying to tell us. So we are talking of the butyric acid and the very important two volatile fatty acids, butyric and acetic acid. But now remember, these are acids. And because they are acids, they will have an alteration of both, of the what? The room and what? pH. Regardless of the importance. Hata kama ni acid mzuri. Acid ni acid. Si acid ni acid. So it will alter the pH of what? Yes, of course. So that is it. So basically that we are saying, that is all we are saying. So in dairy cattle nutrition, carbohydrates are divided into fractions. We have structural carbohydrates, which and related compounds, cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. And non-structural carbohydrates, that is starch and sugar. Now, when we say structural will contain cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. And we've said those with cellulose and even the hemicellulose and lignin, digestion yao iko nini? Iko chini. Because of the what? The glucose unit, the bond inakuwa ngumu. And then we have now the non-structural. Non-structural ni kama starch. Their digestion is very effective and inakuanga very simple because ainanga the glucose what? The glucose units. Lignin is not a carbohydrate, but is part of NDF. Now, yesterday I talked of ADF and NDF. ADF was what? Acid, digestible, or degradable fiber. Actually, these are fibers. And we say fibers are the measure for digestibility of our what? Of a product, of a forage. Yani, in what you use to measure digestibility. Hata ukileta sahi now, ukileta sahi napier grass. What will how you will measure the digestibility of that napier is the amount of fiber. Yenye hiyo nini? Napier iko nayo. So we are saying lignin is not carbohydrate, but part of NDF. So NDF is what we call neutral. The other one was acid. This one is what? Neutral degradable fiber. So structural carbohydrates are typically expressed as neutral detergent fiber. Yes, neutral detergent fiber, which is a measure of digestibility. The material will be comprised of cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin, and also nitrogen bound to the fiber. The recommended concentration of NDF to feed is close to 27 to 28% for of the diet dry matter for lactating cows. Primary source of NDF are A's. So these are the carbohydrate, source of carbohydrates. We have A, we have silage, we have pasture, and we also have ravages. Microbial fermentation. I think this one is what we just talked about. Basically, this is just what we talked about. So I'll not dwell much on this because I've explained there. I said when we have carbohydrate in the stomach, it is fermented by bacteria. It will provide the bacteria achana the lactic acid, but also the volatile what? Fatty acids, which are very important. So for volatile fatty acids, I've talked of the acetic acids and also the butyric acid, which for us is of our importance because we are talking of milk synthesis. And then we also have the propionic acid, which is the primarily used for glucose synthesis. You remember the gluconeogenesis. I talked of gluconeogenesis. So it is the function of the propionic acid. Glucose is the primary precursor of the disaccharide lactose, which is the major small regulator of milk. So that one I think we've talked about. And I've said that carbohydrate presence in milk is called lactose. Sawa sawa. It is suggested that most cows be fed diets containing greater than 50% of the diet as forages. However, this can vary significantly depending on inclusion of fibrous byproducts. what this slide is trying to explain is that when we have a lot of forages or at a source of carbohydrates, we might end up having the issues we talked about yesterday. So we should have supplements for the same. However, there are instances where forages can result in adequate production. Now, heifers and dry cows are fed diets with much greater proportion of forage than lactating cows due to lesser nutrient requirements of cattle in this life phase. Producers need to try for the highest quality forage as it dictates the batches of commercial grains supplement. So we are saying if we can get carbohydrates, if we can get enough carbohydrates in the forage, it will cater for the expenses of these the carbohydrates that we buy commercially. Sawa sawa. Now fats, mafuta. So tulisema for what was the percentage for in milk composition for fats? 3 point? Very good. So we say for Holstein, they vary from breed to breed. So they vary depending on the genetic makeup of an animal. So for Holstein, we normally have an average of 3.6. But for Ashias and Chassis, they will have slightly higher butter fat content. Masiwa yao iko na mafuta mingi kushinda the Holstein. So we are saying fat comprises the most energy-dense nutrients with 2.25 times as energy that carbohydrates and this protein produce. Remember, fats can also be used to produce what? Energy. Fat is not appreciably fermented in the rumen, results in the little heat of fermentation, and can help maintain caloric intake, especially when the cattle experience heat stress. So when an animal is having issues with the heat stress, fats can be used to produce, we told, fermented in the rumen, resulting in the little heat of fermentation. Fat can be divided into two. We have the glycerol and non-glycerol. So non-glycerol type fats have little or have little nutritive value. They have very little nutritive value. And these include wax and steroids. Whereas glycerol type includes triglycerides, phospholipids, and glycolipids and are of nutritive value. So basically, the two types of fats, we have the glycerol and the non-glycerol. So non-glycerol is of no nutritive value, but for the glycerol one, it has a nutritive value. These fats contain the glycerol, these fats containing the glycerol backbone, carbohydrate, and or phosphate moiety, and have long carbon chains. And because of the long carbon chains, that means they are not easily digestible. Rumen microbes can incorporate fatty acids into their cell for cell membrane and motility and what? Modify them, sorry. So, if fat is fed correctly, early lactating cows should see higher milk yields and enhanced milk fat content. So when you give your animal feeds that has a lot of fats, you can have an increase in milk production. At the same time, the milk fat content will also increase. There will also be increase in milk protein yield due to the increased milk fill. Cows pigs should see the increase in body condition. That one is, I think that's normal. Ukikula mafuta mingi, what will happen? So unapanuka pia. So basically, hata ng'ombe pia wakikula mafuta mingi, they tend to put a lot of what? A lot of weight. So cows should also experience improved fertility through AHTTAK greater energy balance and improved hormone concentration involved in the production. And then we have minerals. I think this one should. Okay, so we have minerals. The last component. Hii ilikuwa inachukua percentage ngapi? Around 1%. Sindio? So we will not dwell on much on this. But what we are saying is, we have minerals that are very important in milk synthesis. And minerals are divided into two. The macro elements and what? Micro elements. So basically these are metals. These are metals that should be available for milk synthesis. So minerals are typically classified as metal elements that are inorganic compounds required for many different bodily functions, from structure and nerve impulse to osmotic balance. Remember the osmoregulation. Yeah? So this plays a very important role. And we said minerals are divided into two categories. We have macro elements or macro minerals. That includes calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, chlorine. We have sodium and sulfur, which are required in gram quantities. These are metals, elements that are required in large quantities. And then now we have micro elements. Micro elements, these are macro minerals which are required in trace amount in terms of milligrams. So in dairy cattle, mineral nutrition is essential for the success of lactation because of the large amount of milk that cows produce. Okay. Someone wants to borrow my time kidogo. KVP, utaniongezea points sasa mpaka ya next year. Sini ukweli? But basically, okay, I have around 15 minutes remaining, but I'll donate around 5. So unajua 5 kwa pasta. Yeah, okay. So we are saying the micro elements, the metals, the micro elements are also very important. And I'll just brush through because we have the macro elements. The macro elements are the metals that are required in large amount. We have calcium, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sodium, chloride, and sulfur. And you know this, lazima ikuwe kwa maziwa. Ndio ng'ombe akupe maziwa, lazima apate this one. In larger what? Elements. In larger our amount. And then we have now the micro. The micro elements are these are the elements that are required in trace amount. But now, it doesn't mean they are not important. They are very important. Especially copper. Copper is required in the body for synthesis of wool, hair, and even skin pigmentation, and even the hair pigmentation. Simumona wale ng'ombe wanakuanga like this one. You can see that old stain. What is that color? Black, sindio? But due to malnutrition, simunaonanga ina change inakuwa nini? Inakuwa brown. Sini ukweli? So when you are countering that brownness in color, you just know you are dealing with copper deficiency. That is copper deficiency. And therefore, even if you are deworming that animal, what will you go for? You will go for a dewormer that has copper. Are you getting what I'm saying? That is it. Also, we have what we call iodine. Iodine is very important, especially for the thyroid hormones. You remember the metabolic hormones. So iodine is very important. The T3 and T4. It helps in production of thyroxine hormone. We have iron. Iron is very important in blood circulation. It helps in transportation of what? Oxygen, as well as hemoglobin. Sawa. So that is also important. Manganese, molybdenum, that one is mambo na growth. When you have issues with standard growth. And then we have zinc. Zinc is very important, especially kwa ndama. Zinc is very important, especially kwa ndama. Zinc ina counter diarrhea. Kwa wale ndama wako na issues na diarrhea, unafaa kutumia dawa yenye iko na zinc. We have zinc sulfate. ORS ya watoto, mama wanachua ORS ya watoto, si ndio? ORS ya watoto is made of zinc sulfate. So when you are countering diarrhea in an animal, just know you should use something that has what? Zinc. And nowadays we have a product called Campus tablet. Campus tablet unapea ndama akiwa amemaliza mwezi mmoja. Iko na zinc. So hiyo zinc ina counter nini diarrhea. And also if you have a case of persistent diarrhea, ile umempea kaolin ng'ombe asiki, inamaanisha ile rumen yake the rumen papille imeng'oka. So akikula chakula haina creep. So chakula tu inatoka because it's smooth. So when you give Campus also, ina regenerate what? Rumen papille. So Campus is very important because of that thing. Ina regenerate the rumen papille, and within 2 weeks inafanya nini? Ina creep tena. And then we have selenium. Selenium is very important in issues with fertility. So this one is very important in the issues of fertility and also issues with what you call, there's something called, what do you call? Immunity. So fertility and what? Immunity. So very important. So vitamins, I'll just mention that for vitamins, we have what we call water-soluble vitamins and what? Fat-soluble. Sawa sawa. So for our case here, we are much concerned with what we call fat-soluble vitamin. We call it AHTTAK. AHTTAK means what? Vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Fat-soluble vitamins are very important in milk synthesis. So we have water-soluble and fat-soluble. But for the one which are very important is AHTTAK. That is vitamin A, D, and K. That is AHTTAK. Sawa sawa. And then, so basically, this is what I've just talked about. The vitamins and all that, producing, when we are talking of milk, increasing milk fat, that one tulikuwa tumeongelea. And then, emphasis on high quality forage. This one we are talking of carbohydrates. And we say that high quality forage should have a high level of crude protein as well as carbohydrate. So 70% carbohydrate and 18 to 20% what? Crude what? Crude proteins. Sawa sawa. Delivery of correctly mixed dairy feeds. Indian ile niliwaambia kienyeji. I think this one tushasema, si ndio? Mixed, properly mixed ratio should have 70% carbohydrate, around 18 to 20 or 20, around 20% carbohydrates. It should also have minerals, and also it should also have minerals in it. So that is basically what we talk about. That is what we call TMR, a correctly mixed dairy ratio. And then evaluation of forage digestibility. This one I will say, we are talking of ADF and NDF. NDF and ADF. We are talking of the fiber. Yeah? We are talking of the fiber presence in the forage or in the feeds. So the more the fiber, the more the digestible the product. Sawa sawa. So the ADF and NDF. So this is the measure of how digestible our product is. So we use NDF and ADF to measure. And then constantly check starch and fat. I think this one is tushaongelea. And then balance for methionine and lysine. I think this is a repetition. I say these two amino acids are essential amino acids. Methionine iko kwa corn, lakini haina lysine. Soya bean iko na hii ingine iko na hii. So the most important thing is to make sure that you incorporate all protein sources so that this one can give this one can also give this. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have methionine and lysine proteins in it. Way forward. Okay, nikimalizia. So we talked about white energy. This one I talked about it yesterday. Today I've talked about the compost that will help you in the production of the microelements, zinc. So it has zinc, and it also has billions of bacteria. Compost contain billions of bacteria. So wale ndama wanakuwa matajiri wakiwa wadogo. Do you know what I mean? Wanakuwa matajiri wakiwa wadogo. Wako na wako na tumbo kubwa, si ndio? Na ukimpeleka akunywe maji unasikia tumbo ni kama iko na maji, si ndio? Halafu madaktari wanakimbilia nini? Dawa ya minyoo. Hiyo si minyoo. Umesikia minyoo inafanya look. That is issues with digestion. The animal, ndama, anakula more than it can digest. So you give that ndama what we call compost tablets, 4 to 5 pieces after every 2 weeks. Hiyo compost iko na billions of bacteria. So itaenda kushaga hiyo chakula, itasaidia kushaga. Halafu itaachilia ndama akue kubwa. Because when a calf is having a bottle, what you call that? Bot belly. Lazima ikuwe na standard growth. Haiwezi kuwa kubwa. Unapata amemaliza mwaka moja lakini yako hivi. Lakini ni tajiri. Unaona? So ndio huyo ndama aanze kwenda juu, mbatie nini? Mbatie kishagi. Ashage hiyo chakula. Na hiyo kishagi nimesema ni compost. So basically that's the importance. Another product of great importance is what we call supercal. Supercal. That is oral calcium. Namalizia, So this is the what? The oral calcium. This oral calcium supercal, iko na calcium, and we say calcium is very important in milk what? Synthesis. Sawa. So this is another product of great importance that a cow should be given as it calves. Kama imesa apewe. Ndio atoe ile kamba na pia asikuwe na ile nini? Milk what? Fever, because we are countering what? Deficiency of calcium. And then finally, there is something when we are accessing this, I think yes, evaluation of forage digestibility. Evaluation of forage digestibility. Kuna kitu nilitaka kuwaambia tu moja na ni ya mwisho. Najua for this digestibility, when you are evaluating, sometimes you need to go to the lab, sindio? To check on the NDF and ADF, sindio? But there is a very simple one that I want you to go and analyze. Hii ufai kwenda kwa lab. Unaona ng'ombe akilala chini when the cow is chewing the cud, sindio? Wakati ng'ombe anaanza sasa kurudisha. Nataka uende uhesabu. Ba minute anafaa kuchuu ngapi ndio amese. So unajua anachuu kwanza, then the average inafaa ikue between 45 and 52. 45 and 52. Yaani ukiona tu ng'ombe akifanya hivi, lazima uhesabu ifike ngapi? Around 45 to 52, hiyo ni average. Ukiona ng'ombe anachuu more than 60, what does it mean? Hiyo chakula digestibility yake iko chini. That is why ng'ombe anang'ang'ana sana, anakaa sana nayo kwa mdomo. Hiyo ndio hiyo ni kufanya sasa digestibility evaluation kwa farm tu. Enda uhesabu tu kama ni around 50 something, 55, hiyo iko sawa. Lakini ukiona ng'ombe anaenda 60, my friend, hiyo chakula si mzuri. Sawa. So that is my parting shot, and I don't know, as I welcome the KVP, just in case, I don't know whether or we can have questions maybe later, because there is something that KVP really wants to bust. But I think nimejaribu kuexplain na Kikale na ile lugha tunaelewa, hata kama hii ilikuwa inahitaji a lot of science, si ndio? But I think I've tried my best to explain. So sidhani kama kuna maswali. Sidhani kama kuna maswali.
Asante sana daktari. Now, please let's appreciate him. And now, him being a man, this time tutampatia mguu 4. Tujaribu tujue kama tunajua hiyo. 1. Hiyo ilikuwa kutest, lakini nasikia haijashika. Haya, 1, 2, 3, 4. Asante sana. As they come, I had introduced something in the morning. Ya kwamba, we are in a mess. I'm not blaming anyone, or we are not blaming anyone on the FSVP Act or Code of Ethics. But I feel whatever we are given to practice is not what we've already learned. Mwalimu akifunza, sometimes maybe he doesn't know that we've learned. So ukifunzwa on management of some conditions, Code of Ethics iseme ama FSVP Act iseme ufai kufanya. Mwalimu hana makosa because hakujua that you've learned. He just taught you. Sini sawa? There are things in our curriculum that we learned, but now we are not allowed to do. That's okay. We've grown of age, but some things must change. We are lucky today. We have one of the representatives who is our own, Anaito Oreste, who sits in the board. Again, we have an inspector who is a vet surgeon, and he is here with us today. Let's see what they have for us. Lakini, there's something we need to really internalize. Tunaruhusiwa kwa practice kutumia dawa, lakini haturuhusiwi kuuza tukiamua kwenda biashara. Right? I'm an inseminator. Nilifunzwa how to synchronize an animal. Synchronizing an animal, I must use hormones. But when an inspector comes to my shop na apate hormone, duka langu linafungwa. Si ndio? Why? How do we measure kwamba huyu jamaa auzi? Anaenda tu kutumia kwa field. Vaccines, wakulima